We need to talk about Nintendo's game drought in 2020. Hey Nintendo fans and collectors, Lithium here from my channel Nintendo Collecting. Of course, the year 2020 has been hard on everyone, and video game companies are included, with Nintendo as well. But I really want to get into how bad is it this year for Nintendo, and I know that there's going to be more games announced. For example, for Paper Mario the Origami King, they kind of dropped the trailer and then 2 months later we got the game, which Nintendo's never really done before that fast. So I do expect more games to come out by Christmas. I will discuss those later in the video. However, this year's been really a drought for the company, and I'm here to make my arguments for it. I'm also going to compare the Nintendo Switch year of 2020 to 2019 to 2018 to 2017, and I'm even going to go back to 2015 and 2016, which were the worst years for Nintendo, most people think, on the Wii U and with the 3DS platform, because everything was moving over to the Switch at that time, and they made some really strange decisions. Before I get into this video too much, I do really want to thank my patrons. I have a Patreon account, by the way. There's a link in the description below, and my first patrons are Jack Dooley, Peanutbuttertoastguy, Abdulla, Mahboub, and Nintendo Enthusiast. Thank you so much for being my first patrons. If you want to support the channel, again, there's a link below. Alright, in 2020, what games do we actually get from Nintendo? Let's start there. Of course, in March, we got Animal Crossing New Horizons. This game hit the world right at the perfect time, and it is a fantastic game. It's really immersive, and you ultimately end up playing this game for a really long amount of time. It was a great release to happen in 2020. Then, in July, that's a big jump. We have Paper Mario the Origami King. This is actually a pretty good game. I wouldn't say it's at the top of the Paper Mario franchise, but it's definitely a fun experience. And the story, the art direction, and sometimes the battles are fun, but that's probably the weakest aspect of the game. The best part of this game is the open connected world for me, and trying to discover hidden toads as well is really fun, but the writing's really good too. So this game came out in July. That's a huge gap. Now, were there any releases in between? There were, but most of them were remakes or re-releases. So what remakes and re-releases and kind of that kind of stuff did we get? We got Xenoblade Chronicles, a remake of this. So this is fantastic. This is the big box version of Xenoblade Chronicles. So I'm just going to put that there for the moment. We also got remakes of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, which I don't own, and we had a remake of Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which again, I don't own yet, because the remakes have been staying away from a little bit. So that's really all we've got from Nintendo in terms of physical releases. 3 remakes, Animal Crossing and Paper Mario as well, so 2 new games and 3 remakes. But then we also got like Jump Rope, which was a downloadable game, and there's several other downloadable games. We got Clubhouse Games, actually. Clubhouse Games 51, I don't own yet, but that's not really kind of one new game. That's a compilation of games all thrown together by Nintendo. So it's really hard to put that at the same status of Animal Crossing and Paper Mario when they re-release, 51 games, maybe some of them with some unique things. So yes, that's out this year, but it's not kind of on par as the other giant releases. Also in 2020, we need to consider any of the DLC that we're getting for Super Smash Bros. With new characters, and Sakurai's been hard at work for that, so we need to keep that in mind, kind of as an asterisk. And we have DLC coming out for Sword and Shield. So we can't discount those, but they're not really full games and full releases. So this is everything that we know in 2020. Just to go over it again, Animal Crossing, Paper Mario, Clubhouse Games, Xenoblade Chronicles. We had remakes of Xenoblade, we had a remake of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, and we had a remake of Tokyo Mirage Sessions. So that's really it. Then the downloadable content for Smash Bros. And Pokemon Sword. So before I get to the comparison for all the other years, what's coming out this year? What do you think, first of all? Let's make some bold predictions in the comments below. What do you think Nintendo is going to come out with this holiday? There's 0 chance that they're releasing nothing this holiday. I would assume or imagine they're at least releasing 2 to 3 games this holiday season, and I think we're going to hear about the first one within the next month or so. So probably by late August, we're going to hear what game's going to come out in maybe September or October, and then they're probably going to have 1 or 2 other releases. I'm expecting a remake though. So what do we already know about? We know that there is already in production a new version of Pokemon Snap. I don't think this is coming out this year, but it might, especially if they release it in pieces. So we might get a new Pokemon Snap this year, which could help the year tremendously. We also know We also know Pikmin 4 is in development. It's been in development for a really long time. They might port over Pikmin 3 this year instead of releasing Pikmin 4. So we could see one of those two released this year as well. Then we could, just rumors, we could get Metroid Prime Trilogy out on the Switch. We know about Metroid Prime 4. I just don't think that's even close to being released this year. It's definitely not going to be done in time, I don't think. So we might get something like Metroid Prime Trilogy ported over. I don't think we're getting Prime 4 yet. We also know about Breath of the Wild 2. Could Breath of the Wild 2 drop this year? Again, let me know as a comment below. I don't think they're going to release it this year. I think that game deserves enough hype build up around it for months and maybe even half a year. A little bit more than us only knowing it's in development with the one trailer. So I don't think it's going to drop this year. What I do think is coming this year is a remake of Super Mario 3D World. I think that would be very, very likely to happen this year. Or their biggest release that they've been talking about for a while is the remakes of Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy as a 3-pack. That would be really cool if that actually does come out this year. I would buy that even though I already own the games, even if there's just a graphical upgrade, but I really hope we're getting something with Super Mario Sunshine with the blue coins at least to make that a little bit more friendly. Super Mario Galaxy would look outstanding in HD, as would Super Mario 64. So that's what we think could come out this year. We might get a Pokemon Snap, a Pikmin game, maybe a Metroid game, a probable remake of a Mario game, maybe Breath of the Wild 2. If Breath of the Wild 2 drops this year, that helps to save this year entirely. But overall, like, these are a lot of remakes other than Pokemon Snap, which should be a new version of that game, or at least something brand new with all the Pokemon and new locations. So realistically, right now in 2020, just to recap, we have 2 new games from Nintendo other than Clubhouse games. You could call it 3 if you really want. That's it, guys. I think we're going to get at least one more new game released this year, but probably everything else will be remakes. So you let me know as well. What are your thoughts on only 3 games from Nintendo that are new novel experiences from the company? Because this is one of the worst years, and of course we need to expect that. So why is it happening? Of course, with what's going on in the world, we're not going to have everything we want released this year. So let's get to what Nintendo's actually said about this. Let's get to their statement, because they did have a statement released very recently during one of their meetings. So let me just read some of this statement to you. This comes earlier this week from its annual report, Nintendo's annual report. I'm not going to make any references to what's going on in the world right now, or else this might get demonetized as a video. All right, quote, "In terms of production and shipping, product supply may be impacted if issues involving the procurement of necessary components persist." That makes obvious sense. If they're trying to make the Nintendo Switch console and they can't get all the parts for it, that's going to slow down production and shipment of the systems, and that's why they sold out this year. When Animal Crossing came out, it was really hard to find a Nintendo Switch. Same thing with cartridges, and things like Ring Fit Adventure kept selling out because they weren't maybe getting the cartridges, or they couldn't get all the necessary items to try and satisfy demand for those games, which is slowing things down. I'll continue the quote, skipping ahead a little bit. "Development schedules may be impacted due to the difference in development environment between working from home and in the office, since teleworking is implemented at the company and its partners. As a result, we may not be able to proceed with the release of Nintendo products and the start of services as planned." So they're saying we may not be able to release all the games and everything we wanted to as planned, or even do updates probably to games that were in stock previously. Continue the quote. "Nintendo will continue to conduct business operations by taking necessary measures so that it can continue to provide an environment in which consumers can enjoy its products and services while giving due consideration to the health and safety of its customers and employees." So just saying we're going to be on the safe side, obviously, when we're designing games, programming games, and also sending games out and shipping them. Now, this is slightly different to Nintendo's quote that came out earlier this year. So earlier this year, at the annual general meeting of shareholders, this is the 80th general meeting, we heard from the executive officer, Mr. Takahashi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He said, quote, "While product development is a little behind schedule in some areas due to the impact of what's going on this year, game releases planned for this fiscal year are currently not affected. However, if the impact of what's going on this year is prolonged or becomes more severe, we may not be able to release future titles in line with existing plans. So earlier in the year, they were saying that all games that were released or planned to be released for 2020 are still going to be released this year. My thoughts on that are, Nintendo was probably back then trying to save face for shareholders and also for the stocks to not go down. Clearly, with what's going on, we cannot have every game that we wanted to come out this year coming out. It's not possible to get all the programming done. It's a little bit harder when you're doing it from a distance at home than with the other employees. We can't get all the shipments in time. They can't even get them out. There's no way Nintendo's games, every game they want to release this year, is releasing this year. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had 2 games released on the Switch in all of 2020 so far that are unique games. Maybe 3 Clubhouse games. So call it 3. And then some remakes. So there's no way that that's true. Nintendo was saying that trying to save face as much as possible with their stock and with their shareholders. Also keep in mind, and this is my biggest argument about why we're getting a game drought in 2020, or how this is a game drought. Nintendo no longer has to support 2 ecosystems for games. They only have to worry about the Nintendo Switch. They're not making games anymore for the 3DS. In the past, they had 2 systems they had to worry about. So let's go back a little bit. They used to have the Nintendo DS to worry about, and at the same time they were also worried about selling games on the Nintendo Wii. They needed to support both ecosystems, both consoles, and make games for both. By the way, this Wii Mini, I haven't seen this one very often. This is a Pikmin 2 bonus game included. I just picked this up recently. If anyone knows anything about this or where it was released or launched, let me know. It does have French text in it and English, so it's likely just a Canadian release, but I'm not even sure. Anyways, Nintendo used to have to support both systems, so they had way more games coming out for those systems. After the Wii and the DS, of course, next up we had the Nintendo 3DS, which they had to support, and at the same time, they were also supporting the Wii U. So they had 2 systems to support as well at the time. The white Wii U basic set, by the way, is getting harder and harder to find. The black one's pretty common to find, but this one's insane, and the Zelda one's even worse, by the way. So Nintendo was making games for both of these systems. Now, only one ecosystem, only one console. It's kind of insane that Nintendo's releasing less games when they only have one console to worry about. Of course, this year is going to be a slow year. Alright, so how bad is 2020 compared to the other years previous to it? Compared to the 5 previous years, 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Keep in mind, this year's not over. Keep in mind, the world is crazy this year. So I do have that in mind, but let's go back. Let's take a trip back to the past. I'm going to go in order from 2015 all the way up to 2019. Why 2015? 2015 and 2016, a lot of people consider those the worst year of Nintendo's releases. In 2015, you had games like Chibi Robo Ziplash. There is an awesome video done by Scott the Woz that is about Ziplash specifically. It's a really long video. It's fantastic. I like Scott the Woz videos a lot. I really recommend you check out that video or try and find it. That came out in 2015. What else came out in 2015? We had, in 2015, Mario Party 10, not the best Mario Party. One of my least favorite Mario Parties, but that was released in 2015. We also had, I don't have all of the games specifically, so I'm going to use some in their place. We had Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, or Kirby Canvas Curse, or I'm probably saying it wrong. You can comment below and correct me. So this was not released in 2015, but the Rainbow Curse was, or Canvas Curse, or whatever it was called. Then we also had Xenoblade Chronicles X. Excellent kind of side story. It might get its own sequel one day. So that was released in 2015 as well. So let's just start this stockpile. Let's do that. Hopefully, yeah, perfect. Okay, keep going, 2015. What else came out that year? Because we did have some good games that year, but let's just go through this. Okay, we got Splatoon in 2015. Really, really good game. Also in 2015, Yoshi's Woolly World. Really cool graphics, kind of like Kirby's Epic Yarn. Not everyone loved this game, but it's definitely a solid game released that year. 2015 also gave us Super Mario Maker. Huge title for the Wii U. Didn't sell that well, was eventually ported over to the 3DS, and a sequel happened. Really, really bad game. Animal Crossing, Amiibo Festival, not sought after whatsoever. Really weird, bad release in 2015. But also in 2015, on the 3DS, We had The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D. This is the remake of the game by Grezzo. Really well done, by the way. Also in 2015, we had The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes, an original game on the 3DS where you can play with 3 people. And we had Codename Steam. So I am not saying that this is an exhaustive list of all the games released by Nintendo in 2015. This is a lot of them. Comment below which games I'm missing, because I'm certainly missing some games that released in 2015. Like I said, Chibi Robo as well, and Xenoblade's Upside Down, that's kind of funny. But overall, 2015 is considered one of the worst years for Nintendo. However, we still had Splatoon, Super Mario Maker, and Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes. Yoshi's Woolly World, pretty good as well. So Mario Party 10, okay. Canvas Curse, not bad, but Xenoblade Chronicles X. So overall, I would say here we at least have 5 new unique games that are pretty decent on the console, with 3 standouts that are pretty good. So was 2015 a good year? Not really. Not really, but overall, it was It's one of the worst years from Nintendo for a lot of people. 2015. Alright, next up, 2016. 2016 to me is probably one of the weakest years ever. This might be the weakest year. We had Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. This is one of the worst Mario Tennis games in my opinion. I can't believe how good the Mario Tennis games were on the N64 and on the GameCube, and how poorly the series has done since then on home console. Not a fan of that one. Then we also had a game that I don't own. So we had Fire Emblem come out. There was a Fire Emblem game called Fire Emblem... I think it was Fire Emblem, which one was it? Not Awakening. A Fire Emblem game came out that year. I can't remember which one. Comment below. But we did get a Fire Emblem game in 2015. We also got a remake of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess in HD. Remakes to me don't count as much as new releases. We had Pokken Tournament. This is a really cool fighting game that you get. There's also a specific controller for this one. For Pokken Tournament. That game was eventually ported over to the Switch. We had the very controversial Star Fox Zero that came with Star Fox Guard. This, to me, is Nintendo and Miyamoto trying to come up with new gameplay mechanics just for the sake of making new gameplay mechanics. This reminds me a lot of Color Splash, and it reminds me a lot of Paper Mario the Origami King, and Nintendo just trying to find those new gameplay styles for us to play with, because Star Fox Zero could have been so good, but the control scheme is just horrendous to me, and a lot of people complained about that one. Very strange decision. We also had Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Summer Games. This is the Winter Games, but it was the Summer Games, the 2016 game, not 2014. I just don't own that one yet. We had Paper Mario Color Splash, another very divisive game on the Wii U. It's an okay Paper Mario game, but again, not near the top, had different gameplay mechanics, and did not really have a connected world. You had level selects. On the 3DS that year, we had Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. So this is a new game in the Mario and Luigi series that combines with Paper Mario for the 2016. Not a bad game. We also had Mario Party Star Rush. Not the best Mario Party game, but it is a new one out on the console. We had Bravely Second End Layer in 2016. Really, really good sequel to Bravely Default. We also had Super Mario Maker 3DS come over from the Wii U. We had Kirby Planet Robobot, but I don't have Kirby Planet Robobot, so here's Kirby Triple Deluxe. Did not release that year, but Planet Robobot did. This one released in 2014, but Robobot released in 2016. And we had Fire Emblem Fates come out. Fire Emblem Fates, I believe, came out in 2016 as well, unless I'm mistaken with which Fire Emblem game came out in that year. So that was 2016. Are there any huge standouts for me that are really, really, really good games? Bravely Second, excellent game. Next up, other than remakes on here, Pokken Tournament, maybe, and then between Color Splash and Mario Luigi Paper Jam. Kirby Planet Robobot, not bad either, but again, it's not here. The rest of these are mostly remakes, and Star Fox Zero I'm just not a fan of. So to me, 2016 is probably Nintendo's weakest year, with a giant game drought that year as well. But guess what happened in 2017? The Nintendo Switch came out in 2017. 2017 will go down as one of my favorite gaming years of all time. Comment below, what's your favorite gaming year ever? So in 2017, this is a giant stack of games, by the way. This is crazy. Okay, so this stack of games is in no particular order. I am going to go through this kind of just, let's start with the huge ones before I drop this entire stack of games. We're going to start with the launch game, of course, that also came out on the Wii U, but I'm going to show off the game on the Switch. This is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. One of the best games in the series, one of the best games of all time. The dungeons can be a little bit better, and I'm so excited to see what they do with Breath of the Wild 2 for that regard. And maybe there's going to be underwater mechanics in the game. Maybe they're going to use the same overworld map, but we go into the water and go into mountains and dungeons. I would be really cool with that. Let me know below, what do you hope to get out of Breath of the Wild 2, or the sequel to it, or whatever it's going to be called? But this came out in 2017 on the Wii U and on the Nintendo Switch. One of the best games ever. Another one of the best games ever for me, Super Mario Odyssey, also released in 2017. That is insane that both of these games came out in 2017. I'm just double checking the date on the back of this so I don't get this wrong by any regard. But anyways, 2017, both of them dropped. Crazy year. This is back to like Super Mario 64 and Sunshine and Giant Worlds, where you can collect a ton of moons in this game. Two of the best games of all time already in the same year. Also, that year, this is going into some other releases, but they have giant boxes. So let's just use this one that has a giant box. We had Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in 2017. All my dates, by the way, if I didn't mention this, are in North America. They might have released at different times in Europe and in Japan. But Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the sequel, of course, this is one of the most beautiful special editions I have ever seen. I have unboxed this on my channel, but for the cover art, this is one of my favorite cover arts of all time. I should really do top 10 cover art boxes video or something like that. This released in 2017 as well. If this is all that came out, this would already be a pretty decent year, but alright, let's keep going. 2017 also gave us ARMS. We have Min Min and Smash Bros. This is a one-on-one fighting game. You can play with 4 players, but it's usually one-on-one whenever I experience it. I think that's where it's at its best. I really like this game. Not enough people play it. It was sold out for a while, and people were charging an arm and a leg on things like Facebook Marketplace and Kijiji, of all places, for ARMS, but it came out in 2017. Splatoon 2, the sequel to Splatoon, also dropped in 2017. What a year so far. We've only gone through 6 games, and they're all unique. So sticking with that year, we have Fire Emblem Warriors. Kind of like Hyrule Warriors, like Dynasty Warriors, tons of enemies on screen. So this one also dropped in 2017. That's remarkable that all these games came out that year. Let's just keep the big box games together. Alright, sticking with 2017, we also had a remake come out. There are several remakes in 2017 that released for the Nintendo Switch, but the biggest one was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I can't believe the Switch still doesn't have its own Mario Kart game exclusive to the Switch that was never released before. That's crazy to me. We've been playing this same Mario Kart for so long, but this does include all the DLC. We also had remakes of Pokken Tournaments and Fire Emblem Warriors. We have this one right here. So Fire Emblem Warriors might not have been a unique game to that year, by the way. I think it might have been released previously, but we got Mario Kart and we also got Pokken Tournaments, which was a remake on the Nintendo Switch that year. Switching over to the 3DS. So 3DS. We have one of the biggest releases, of course, of the year was Pokemon. In 2017? This might have been a 2017 release. This was this year too. Pokemon Ultra Sun, Pokemon Ultra Moon came out in 2017, only 3.5 years ago, roughly. We got both of these games that year as well. So, wow, what a year. 2017 was amazing. Okay, we also got, in 2017, let's just go through a few of the games quickly. Alright, we got Mario Party, the top 100. What a great idea for a game, but executed so poorly. I would love to see this come to the Switch and do a lot better, because that game should have been amazing. We got Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia. This is Echoes. Great game too in the Fire Emblem. We got Fire Emblem Warriors. This is, again, kind of like a port over. So maybe that's the port. That's the re-release of this one was the original, and then that was the remake. We had Metroid Samus Returns. Yes, this is a remake, but it has some, there's enough of an upgrade to this that it feels like it's a new game. This is probably the definitive way of playing Samus Returns, by the way. And we have Yoshi's Woolly World. This is a re-release of a game that came out on the Wii U. I'm almost out of room at the top of this stack now that I put Yoshi here. Pretty much it's at the top. Then we have a Mario Sports Superstars game that came out on the 3DS. I don't own that yet. I can't believe I don't own that yet, but I don't. And we had Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga re-released on the 3DS, which I don't own either, which was released that year. So 2017, we had a lot of remakes. Just to go through the remakes, we had Mario Kart, Pokken Tournament, Fire Emblem Warriors were the remakes from that year. So, what a year, 2017. Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2, ARMS, Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Just those games are the new games for the year that stood out to me that were really, really good. 2017, one of the best years all time. Of course, that's also when the Nintendo Switch launched, so that's pretty incredible. I need to take this down in parts because there's so many of them. Alright, now let's compare to 2018. How was that year in terms of releases on the Nintendo Switch, especially considering how good 2017 was? You might have thought 2018 might go down a little bit. Alright, 2018. 2018 to me, the biggest release, or one of the biggest releases of the year, is of course Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is still getting more characters. I hope Sakurai keeps releasing characters for this to get to 100, and he did announce there's more DLC characters coming, and we're getting more out of this, but 2018, this is the biggest release for me. I can't believe everyone is back in that game. So sticking with 2018, we got a really good Mario Party game. Maybe not really good, but at least a return to form in Super Mario Party. This one comes with 2 Joy-Cons. This one finally has you moving around the map individually again, because the previous 2 games, Mario Party 9 and 10, you were kind of in a cart together moving around the map. My problem with this game is the maps aren't big enough. The allies that you get in this game, which are random basically, if you get a few allies early on, you're easily going to win the game. I wish there was more maps than 4. I cannot believe we have no DLC content for this game with more maps or more characters. That's crazy to me. I would love to see it from Nintendo if they're ever listening. So that game also came out in 2018. Okay, Switch. Let's just stick with Switch for a little bit. We had Kirby Star Allies. Speaking of allies, I haven't even opened this one yet, so let me know your thoughts on this game, but I hear pretty good things. It's another 2D Kirby game. I would really like to see a 3D Kirby game at some point, because other than, I think, yeah, other than Air Ride, which was 3D racing game, essentially, we haven't had a 3D Kirby game. Then we had Nintendo Labo. So the Labo are gigantic boxes, by the way, which probably wouldn't even fit in this video, but I can try it. So Labo Toy-Con kits 1, 2, and 3 all released in 2018. So they were new types of gaming experiences. Just to put this out there, if you're not sure what Nintendo Labo is, it's cardboard. This is great during what's going on in the world if you want to waste some time and create this with cardboard. But literally, Nintendo sold us cardboard and we're buying it. But if you find these on sale for $20, definitely worth it. Then they released Mario Tennis Aces. Again, I don't know how these tennis games aren't as good as they're supposed to be, but the N64 and GameCube one are still better than these. So I was not happy with that release overall. Then we got, in 2018, we got Xenoblade Torna, but I don't have Xenoblade Torna. This is the Golden Company. So I have Xenoblade Chronicles X in its place, but Xenoblade Torna came out. I've been looking for it, but it's sold out everywhere around me. We also have, in 2018, we have really big titles that were remakes. We have Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. So these games are the originals from the Game Boy all the way onto the Switch, and they have updated graphics, updated gameplay. You can see the characters on the screen, which is a little bit better. Really, really fun games, by the way, and releases from Nintendo and from Game Freak. Crazy. Alright, let's keep going. Then we had on the Switch, which I don't have necessarily all of these from this year, but we have remakes, or remasters, or re-releases of Hyrule Warriors on the Nintendo Switch. Again, I don't own it, but on the Switch we got Hyrule Warriors. We also got Bayonetta came to the Switch. Bayonetta 1 and 2 came to the Switch. If you're looking at for the Wii U, make sure you get this version with the bonus Bayonetta 1 included, but that was ported to the Switch. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was also ported to the Switch with a new character. and Captain Toad Treasure Tracker was ported over to the Switch. So essentially the Wii U didn't sell very well, and they started porting over a lot of games to the Nintendo Switch. Then we have Luigi's Mansion for the 3DS was released. It's the Luigi's Mansion original that was out on the 3DS. I actually didn't even know that existed, but I'm not talking about Dark Moon. I'm talking about the original Luigi's Mansion is out on the 3DS. It's really hard to find in my area, so I can't really get it. We also had WarioWare Gold... What was it called? I can't remember. Gold something. Not WarioWare Twisted, but I reminded myself what came out. WarioWare Gold something. Comment below. We had a WarioWare game. And we also had one more game, but comment below, because I don't think I can remember what the last one is that came out in 2018. So the remakes, we got Bayonetta, Hyrule Warriors, Donkey Kong Country, Captain Toad, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, and Pikachu were remakes. And then this year, the standouts, of course, are Super Smash Bros., Mario Party, probably Kirby, and Labo. But everything else for me in 2018... isn't great. Oh, Torna, I think. Xenoblade Torna is probably the other one that I would mention. So 2018, definitely a huge step down from 2017. But overall, not the worst year, just tons of ports coming out for the Wii U. Alright, after that, we have 2019. Alright, so this is the last comparison we need to do. 2019. Alright, so the big release this year, the biggest release for me this year, was Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield in 2019. These games are doing really well. We're still seeing DLC for them. My wife's playing this to the death, and also my buddy Jordan's playing this a lot right now because of the DLC that's out. I need to jump into it more. This is the best game probably from the year, in my opinion. There's some other really good games actually that could give a run for its money. So sticking with that year, unique releases in 2019. Oh wait, no, I'm missing the best game of the year. Never mind. Sorry, that's probably my second favorite game of the year. The best game of the year, but this is a big box, that's why I almost forgot to mention it first. Fire Emblem Three Houses. Game of the year for me, for sure. This game allows you so much more than the previous Fire Emblem games in terms of like you actually following the characters and your control over the characters outside of the battles, because there's way more going on. It almost feels like a Persona game in some regard. Fantastic game, easily in the 90s from 2019. Then second place would be Pokemon Sword and Shield. Then also that year, for the Nintendo Switch, unique games, we got Super Mario Maker 2, the sequel to Super Mario Maker. A lot of people are still playing the DLC that's coming out for this game. It's a lot of free DLC. I think you have to pay. Do you have to pay for stuff in this game? I'm not even sure. I haven't checked out much of the DLC for this quite yet. This is infinite gameplay in the Mario universe. I just really wonder what's going to happen to it once Nintendo goes offline with the Switch eventually. We had Luigi's Mansion 3 come out last year as well, with Gooigi that you see on top there. Really good game, probably near the top for the system as well for that year. Astral Chain released in 2019. I haven't played this one very much, but I hear really good things. And I also want to mention in 2019 for the Switch at this point, we had Daemon X Machina, or Diamond X Machina. I don't know how people pronounce that one, but I haven't checked that one out yet, and I don't own it yet. Also, that year, though, we had a big release that not a lot of people talk about, but a lot of people are playing it. This is Ring Fit Adventure. I can finally find this in stores again. So, stores aren't necessarily sold out of this. I started playing this, my wife's playing it. It's actually a really fun workout game that I would highly recommend, and the band is quite hard to use with the gameplay in terms of, like, it's actually challenging. You can definitely break a sweat. You also wear a leg sensor that you put the Joy-Con into. So Ring Fit Adventure also came out in 2019. I really thought that was 2020, but I was mistaken. So that's a decent year overall so far. It's really hard for you to see Ring Fit Adventure, but there you go. You got it a little bit in the shot. That year, though, we also had several remakes. So one of the biggest releases of the year in terms of a remake is The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. This is almost a brand new game, to be honest. With how much they added to this game and the graphic style that looks like it's claymation, it is so well done, and you also have some bonus content that wasn't in the game previously. You have Dompe's dungeons, basically, chamber dungeons that you can arrange and play in this. But this game is it's still the same game, but it's a complete reimagining of Link's Awakening, one of the best handheld Zelda games, by the way, on this. But it is a remake, so hard to say if remake, remaster, re-release. That year, we also got Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. So now you can play as Nabbit, but this is a remake of the game that came out on the Wii U. Smart of Nintendo to do that. And it also includes all the games from Super Luigi U. Just as a heads up, you can use Toadette, and for some reason when Toadette gets the Super Crown, she turns into Peach. I don't really understand what's going on there with that power-up. You play as Peachette. Peachette. So weird to me. Such a weird power-up. Bowsette, people were yelling for a while. Then that year, we got Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story on the 3DS, but I don't own that one. And we got Kirby's... Did we get Kirby Extra Yarn that year? Yeah, we got Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn that year as a re-release as well. So there might be more games released in 2019, but 2019, we got Yoshi's Crafted World. Yoshi's Crafted World I don't own yet. So Yoshi's Crafted World, if I don't have that here, I do have to mention that that game came out in 2019. We also had Labo, but the Labo that came out in 2019 was only the fourth one. So the fourth one for Labo, I can show it briefly here, but the box is gigantic. This is the VR kit. So the VR kit does have a different variation. This just is the starter set with the blaster. There's a larger variety kit for the Toy-Con 4 that was released in 2019 also. Alright, so 2019, I think that's all of them now. I think I finally got through all of them because I am missing a few. I don't own them yet. So Yoshi's Crafted World, Labo, Super Mario Maker 2, Fire Emblem 3 Houses, Astral Chain, Diamond X Machina, Ring Fit, Luigi's Mansion 3, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Last year, great year. The standouts for me, of course, Fire Emblem 3 Houses, Pokemon Sword and Shield, Luigi's Mansion 3, Super Mario Maker 2, and Ring Fit Adventure are probably like my top 5 from 2019. So this now brings us all the way back around to 2020. Every year that I went through had roughly 3 to 5 unique new games from Nintendo, and even when they were trying to support 2 different ecosystems of games on the DS and the Wii, or on the 3DS and the Wii U. Now that Nintendo only has the Nintendo Switch to worry about, I was hoping that their development teams would be releasing way more games. I was hoping for maybe even a game a month, or a game every month and a half. I don't think that's unreasonable. Nintendo used to have, I think, 4 EAD development teams, and they had 2 other offshoots, like Intelligent Systems, and they also have, like, Game Freak, who's like a second party to them, and they have Monolith Soft, who they're related to as well. They have tons of development teams. So I'm kind of shocked that Nintendo, when the Switch is in its prime, is releasing so little. We have to keep in mind with what's going on this year, but when Nintendo made the statement to their investors that every game that was supposed to be released this year is still releasing this year, I think maybe they meant fiscal year. So that fiscal year would be from April to April, essentially. So maybe every game they intended to release in 2020 is actually going to be out by the end of March, just before April 2021. So they could have been saying that. But let's be honest. With what's going on in the world, there's no way Nintendo's going to be able to release everything they want. If they wanted Breath of the Wild 2 out this year, I don't know if they can make that happen. It's a lot easier for Nintendo to release any sort of remakes to be out this year. I think that's way more feasible for them to start releasing games like what we talked about with Pokemon Snap. I think that's definitely possible to release this year. I think it's also extremely likely we're going to get Super Mario 3D World this year. This, to me, would probably be Nintendo's next announcement. Would be, maybe this is coming out early October, maybe in September. I really would see this coming out, and I think their big holiday release would be the Mario games for the 35th anniversary? Are we already at 35 years of Mario? Wow. Yeah, for the 35th anniversary of Mario, maybe we'll get Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy. And then hopefully we also get like a Pikmin game or one other unique surprise. So what I think we're seeing out of Nintendo this year, realistically, 2 really big games that are made by their first party studio. Then we have Clubhouse 51 games. Then we have tons of remakes. And hopefully one more game from Nintendo in 2020 that's a unique experience to the console, that's a brand new title like Pikmin 4. But other than that, 2020, no doubt to me, is a drought for Nintendo, and it's a drought for a lot of other companies. But there's no arguing against this anymore. We're in a game drought. Please comment below. Let me know, what do you think Nintendo is going to release this holiday season? Make some ridiculous claims because I would love to read them. And also, I just want to mention one more time, the face reveal. We hit 100,000 subscribers. The face reveal is happening, but it's going to happen when I get the Silver Play Button award so I can celebrate it properly with you guys. Because of what's going on in the world, it's going to take a little bit longer probably for that award to be sent to me. I contacted YouTube a week ago and asked them about it, and they said, oh, contact us next week. I contacted them now, and they started the process, but it seems like it's a little bit slow. So I apologize. You're going to have to wait a few more weeks. Some of you have been waiting years. You can wait a few more weeks, but that face reveal is definitely coming. Again, Patreon, thanks so much for supporting the channel, and go collect them all. Keep smiling while gaming. Let me know what your thoughts are on Nintendo's game drought of 2020. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay safe. Go collect them all. Keep smiling while gaming. I think I said that, but you guys are awesome. Thanks, everyone.